Hi, welcome back. I'm in a different kitchen, as you can see. I'm in Italy, and because it's the holiday times, we have these curs more than a tradition in my family, which is we actually do biscuits for Christmas to give away as a present. My grandfather was a patissier, so we have all these traditional biscuits recipes, and I think it's quite normal in Italy, traditionally to, well, I think everywhere, to make biscuits. Now, I come from a region, Piedmont, which has an amazing gastronomic tradition. It's a very, very rich area. We have amazing produce, but we also have a very individual culinary tradition compared to the rest of Italy. And one of the things we do is biscuits. We do amazing little biscuits. The main ones we do in my family, the first one is baci di dama, which is 2 little hazelnuts put together with chocolate. Hazelnut biscuits put together with chocolate is called ladies' kisses. And then we have, every town pretty much has their own traditional biscuit. I come from a place which is not far away from Vercelli, and what they do there is a kind of like shortbread with spices called bicciolani. And because of the richness of the area, it was more focused towards rice and maize. We actually do use corn flour and cornmeal a lot. And the biscuits I'm going to do today, which are typically Piedmontese and from this area, the nearest town is Biella, so that's where it comes from. It's called pasta di melica. Melica is cornmeal. So it's actually wheat-free biscuits. This is the dosage. Comes from my grandfather recipe book, and it's very simple. I have, with amazing feat of technology, written it all down, and you can see here. Okay, we go. All you need is 200 grams of cornmeal, 3 egg yolks, 100 grams of butter, and 70 grams of sugar. Nothing else, nothing less. They are not, as you can see, they're not raised. The corn cooks in a very kind of like basic way. It doesn't need to. It wouldn't grow anyway. In order to have raising, you would have to have wheat because corn doesn't have any gluten. So these are also gluten-free. Now, what we need is, as we said, the cornmeal. As you can see, we call this fumetto, and it's basically it's a very, very fine cornmeal that we're using here. And I'm going to do it in a bowl just in case, because I'm not sure what the density of the dough is going to be. Then we have 150 grams of butter, which I'm going to melt quickly on the stove, and then I need 70 grams of sugar. There we go. 75, sorry. As you can see, there's also not much sugar in it. And then I'm going to need 3 egg yolks. Now, what I normally do if I am left with some egg white is afterwards I'm going to do some meringue, which is, again, it's a kind of biscuit that we are going to give out as a present. Here you go. It's actually, I always found the best way to separate eggs is with your hands. Good. Let's be a bit more technical. And let's really like this. Some kind of, there we go. Mix these. I'm going to take a fork, and so I'm going to keep the egg white on the side. Egg yolks. And the melted butter. So you see, in terms of proportions, you can see it's quite a buttery dough. Try not to cook the eggs with a hot butter. Now, one thing you can add to this, which might give it a bit more flavour, it's tiny bit of vanilla essence. Just going to flavour the biscuits. I love vanilla. I mean, it's one of those smell, and I think if you look into aromatherapy, vanilla is very calming. It's incredibly calming. But for me, it also has associations. I was saying my granddad smelled of vanilla because it worked in his workshop every day, surrounded by vanilla, and it's one of those scents that just really get into you. So it has a lovely association. Now, while at the moment it's quite crumbly, but of course, like any dough, is going to, the moment the batter cools down a bit, let's get magic box and get some vanilla essence. Here we go. You can also put a bit of lemon zest if you like. There are very many recipes for this. As I said, it's a traditional recipe, and pretty much everywhere in Piedmont you'll find a slightly different one. There are some with olive oil. You sometimes find a mix of cornmeal and wheat flour. But this, as I said, is my granddad recipe. It was pretty good, and so we stick to this one. Right, so I'm going to have to... I'm going to leave it to rest until the butter consolidates a bit. So I let this to rest for a bit. You can put it in the fridge if to accelerate the process, so the butter is condensed again and the dough is slightly denser, so it's easier to work. It still is a very crumbly one. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take the tray, the oven tray, and I'm going to just spread the dough on this at about, I'd say, half an inch. And then with this, the reason I'm doing it on this one is because if I actually do it separate and then I transfer the biscuits, it's going to be more difficult, believe it or not. And I'm going to, so it's easier today, take it away from the tray. And we're going to use a biscuit cutter. Now, to give it a slight special effect, I have a rolling pin with, I don't know how to call this as a change, I just don't know how to call it. So I'm going to use this rolling pin, and it's going to give it a kind of like stripy effect. You can do the same with a fork, so this you don't really need this if you don't have one. Then I have a biscuit cutter, and with the biscuit cutter I'm going to cut the biscuit, and you see, if I do it like this, I don't have to transfer them, and so they're not going to break because they are very breakable. So it's just because there is no wheat, it is not particularly consistent. Also, some of it depends on how thick the cornmeal is. If you have a very fine cornmeal, it's actually easier. Now, you might think this is a bit of a messy process. Now, I was thinking about, you know, if you watch something like Great Bake Off, you know that baking is not always the most elegant of exercises. But in Italian, sweet baking is called pasticceria. And what pasticcio means is mess. It's like, you know, eat a mess. And I think it's quite appropriate that it can be at times quite messy, to be honest. Let's just propose that. Which is part of the fun of it, really. I mean, I think it's really, really good to get your hands dirty, as they say. It's incredibly liberating, it's relaxing, it's just, I still think it's good for you, it's creative, and then at the end you get sweeties. So what else do you want from life, to be honest? There we go. Ah! No, I have to do this one again. So yes, I don't think I would win a prize for elegance when it comes to doing this kind of stuff. And yet, the final result, you know, it's a bit like a metaphor for life, isn't it? It's, everything is quite messy, and then the final result can be fantastic. So, who cares? I don't. There we go. I think this is also why it's really good for children, because children are naturally messy. One could say. One could argue that children are naturally messy, and it's, you know, but again, it's that kind of idea that you things have to be controlled. And now I'm going to try these ones, to do these ones with the fork. As you can see, it's not quite as nice, but you still have that striky effect. Over the Christmas holidays, I did biscuits with my nephew and nieces. The average age is 7, and it was absolute great fun. They seem to have that fun. Then basically, what we did some basic shortbread, and then we decorate them with glaze. We glaze them and then put on top all sort of sugary things and chocolatey things and shapes and all colourful. The glazes were of different colours, and the kids had great fun. They learned that cooking is great fun, and then they gave the biscuits away as presents. Right, so this is supposed to go into the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. I'm so sorry, I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit. It's probably gas mark 4. Check it. For about 20 minutes, but I always leave a bit of give and take, because things change, and you know, the thickness of the biscuits might be different and so forth. So I'm going to leave them in for 15 minutes and then check them. Ow! Yes, I just burned myself. So here we are. These are cooked for 20 minutes or less at 180. And then I've cooled them down for quite a long time, because they need to cool down to gain sort of structure, and they're still very friable when you take them out of the oven and they're still warm. And they are really quite nice. It's like they then become sort of like more solid, and are really lovely with tea, coffee, or anything of the kind. I think they would be a really interesting cheesecake base as well. It's a very strange texture. It's quite grainy because of the corn flour. We have another kind of biscuits here in Piedmont, which are similar to this, called crumiri. So you just have to know that it's going to be a different texture. But otherwise, they're delicious. Hope you try them and enjoy them. Thanks.